Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defiant and watched the stars through the main viewer. The ship moved slowly through the Kepler 442 system, far from Earth and the safety of human space. His crew had been mapping this empty region for 6 months now, looking for new worlds that humans could call home someday. The bridge was quiet, except for the soft hum of the ship's engines and the gentle beeps from the control stations. Commander Lisa Torres sat at her station, checking reports from the science teams. Lieutenant Sam Bradley worked at communications, listening for any signals from deep space. Chief Engineer Matt Collins was probably down in the engine room, making sure their experimental systems kept working properly. Jake had been commanding starships for 20 years. He had seen strange things in the darkness between stars, but today felt different. Something was wrong with the silence out here. It felt too heavy, like the moment before a storm. "Captain," Sam called from his station. "I'm getting something on long-range sensors." Jake turned toward the young officer. Sam was good at his job, maybe the best communications officer Jake had ever worked with. If Sam said something was out there, then something was definitely out there. "What do you have, Lieutenant?" Sam frowned at his screens. "It's big, sir, really big. Multiple contacts moving toward our position from the outer system." Lisa looked up from her reports. "How many contacts?" "I'm counting at least 300 ships, Commander. Maybe more. They're still too far away to get a clear reading." Jake felt his stomach drop. 300 ships was not an exploration fleet. That was an invasion force. He walked over to Sam's station and looked at the sensor display. The dots on the screen looked like a swarm of angry insects moving toward them. "Are they heading for human space?" Jake asked. Sam worked his controls for a moment. "Yes, sir. Their current course will take them straight through the Proxima colonies. 2 million people live in those systems, Captain." Jake closed his eyes for a moment. 2 million civilians had no way to defend themselves against a fleet that size. The nearest human military base was weeks away at top speed. "Can we get a better look at them?" Lisa asked. "Working on it, Commander." Sam adjusted his sensors. "I'm boosting power to the long-range array." The main viewer changed to show a tactical display. Hundreds of red dots moved across the star chart like drops of blood in water. Jake had never seen so many ships in one place before. "My God," Lisa whispered. "What are they?" "Unknown design," Sam reported. "The computer doesn't recognize their energy signatures. They're not in any of our databases." Jake studied the display. The alien ships were moving in perfect formation, like a school of fish. Their speed was impressive, faster than most human vessels could travel. But something else caught his attention. "Sam, are you detecting any weapons fire out there?" The lieutenant checked his sensors again. "No active combat, sir, but I'm reading damage signatures on several of the alien vessels. Looks like they've been in a recent battle." "With who?" Lisa asked. "That's what worries me," Jake said. "If something out there can damage a fleet that size, what happens when it comes looking for us?" The bridge fell silent again. Everyone understood the problem now. The alien fleet might not be coming to attack human colonies. They might be running from something even worse. "Captain," Matt Collins called over the ship's communication system. "You need to see something down here." Jake tapped his comm badge. "What is it, Chief?" "The experimental defense grid is acting strange. It's picking up energy readings I've never seen before. You should come look at this." Jake glanced at Lisa. "You have the bridge, Commander. Keep watching that fleet." "Aye, sir." Jake took the elevator down to the engineering section. The USS Defiant was an older ship, but it had been fitted with some of humanity's newest defensive technology. Most of it was still experimental, designed by engineers who thought they were preparing for future human conflicts. Nobody had expected to need it against aliens. Matt was waiting for him in the main engineering bay. The chief engineer was a thin man with graying hair and hands that always seemed to be covered in grease. He had been working on starships longer than Jake had been commanding them. "Look at this, Captain." Matt pointed to a large display showing the ship's defensive systems. "The energy grid is going crazy. It's detecting power sources that shouldn't exist." Jake studied the readings. The numbers were far beyond anything human technology could produce. "These are from the alien fleet?" "Has to be. The reading started when they entered sensor range. Captain, if these numbers are right, just one of those alien ships has more firepower than our entire home fleet. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Are you sure about this? I've run the diagnostics 3 times. The equipment is working fine. Those aliens out there have technology we can't even understand. Jake stared at the display for a long moment. If the alien fleet was that powerful, then human space was defenseless against them. The colonies in their path would fall in hours, maybe minutes. There's something else, Matt said. The defense grid is also detecting massive structural damage on about half of those ships. Whatever they fought, it hurt them badly. Bad enough to stop them? I don't know, but bad enough to make them desperate. Jake nodded and headed back to the bridge. The situation was getting worse by the hour. A damaged alien fleet was heading toward human space, and something even more dangerous might be following behind them. When he returned to the bridge, Lisa was waiting with more bad news. Captain, I've been studying their course. At their current speed, they'll reach the Proxima system in 4 days. Any word from command? I sent a priority message to Admiral Carter 2 hours ago. No response yet. Jake sat in his captain's chair and looked at the tactical display. The alien fleet continued its steady approach toward human space. His ship was alone out here, one small vessel against hundreds of unknown enemies. But he was a Starfleet captain, and he had sworn an oath to protect human lives, even if it meant facing impossible odds. Sam, prepare a message for the alien fleet. All frequencies, all languages in our database. Yes, sir, what should I say? Jake thought for a moment. First contact with an alien species was supposed to be a moment of celebration, a new chapter in human history. Instead, it felt like the beginning of a war they could not win. Tell them they are entering human space. Ask them to identify themselves and state their intent. The response came 6 hours later, crackling through the ship's communication systems like static mixed with music. Sam Bradley sat hunched over his console, working frantically to make sense of the alien transmission. I'm getting something. Captain, Sam called out. It's definitely artificial, but the translation computer can't make heads or tails of it. Jake Morrison leaned forward in his captain's chair. Can you clean it up? Working on it, sir. Sam's fingers flew over his. Controls. The signal is using mathematical sequences we recognize, but the language is completely unknown. Dr. Alex Wayne rushed onto the bridge, his lab coat still covered in coffee stains from working through the night. The ship's xenobiologist had been waiting his entire career for this moment. This is incredible, Alex said, staring at the waveform patterns on Sam's display. Look at the complexity of their communication structure. They're using harmonic frequencies we never considered. Commander Lisa Torres joined them at the communication station. Can you make any sense of it, Doctor? Give me time. Sam, can you isolate the mathematical portions and run them through the universal translator? For the next 3 hours, Sam and Alex worked together while Jake paced the bridge. The alien fleet continued its approach toward human space, now less than 3 days away from the Proxima colonies. Got something? Sam announced suddenly. The computer managed to decode part of their message. Let's hear it, Jake said. Sam played the translated portion. A mechanical voice spoke in halting English. Warning. Danger. Behind us. Seeking. Safe passage. No harm intended. That's all? Lisa asked. The rest is too garbled to translate yet, Sam replied. But Captain, they're definitely trying to communicate. This isn't a hostile first contact. Jake studied the tactical display again. The alien fleet's formation had changed slightly, spreading out in what looked more like a protective pattern than an attack formation. Keep working on the translation. I want to know what they're running from. Admiral Ruth Carter's face appeared on the main viewer 2 hours later, her expression grim. Jake had served under Carter for 10 years and knew that look meant trouble. Captain Morrison, I've reviewed your reports. How certain are you about the size of this alien fleet? Very certain, Admiral. Over 300 vessels, some of them larger than anything in our fleet. And they're heading straight for the Proxima colonies? Yes, ma'am. They'll arrive in approximately 60 hours at current speed. Admiral Carter was quiet for a moment, studying something off-screen. Jake, I'm sending you additional orders. The President has authorized First Contact Protocol Delta. Jake felt his blood run cold. Protocol Delta meant he was authorized to take any action necessary to protect human lives, including the use of deadly force against alien contact. Admiral, with respect, my ship against their entire fleet. I know the odds, Captain, but you're the only ship in position to make contact. Try diplomacy first, but if they refuse to change course, you are authorized to engage. The transmission ended, leaving Jake alone with an impossible decision. His ship carried experimental weapons that might damage a few alien vessels, but against 300 ships, the USS Defiant wouldn't last 5 minutes in a real fight. Captain, Sam called out, I've got more of their transmission decoded. This time, the mechanical translation was clearer. We are Vorthan Empire, fleeing great enemy. Mechanical devourers consumed our worlds, seeking safe passage to neutral space. Millions of refugees aboard. No hostile intent toward your species. Dr. Wayne looked up from his analysis. Captain, if their translation is accurate, we're not dealing with an invasion fleet. These are refugees. Refugees with enough firepower to level our colonies, Lisa pointed out. But why are they heading toward human space? Jake asked. There are dozens of empty systems they could use. Sam worked his console again. I think I have the answer, sir. I've been analyzing their course more carefully. They're not actually heading for the Proxima colonies. They're heading for the empty systems beyond them. Jake studied the tactical display with new eyes. Sam was right. The alien fleet's course would take them past human space, not through it. They need to pass through our territory to reach safe space, Jake realized. And they're asking permission, Dr. Wayne added. This could be the most significant moment in human history, Captain. Jake made his decision. Sam, prepare another message for the alien fleet. Tell them we understand their situation and request more information about this enemy they're fleeing from. The response came back faster this time, as if the aliens had been waiting for human acknowledgement. Grateful for your understanding. Enemy is called the Devourers. Mechanical intelligence. Consumes all organic life. Converts matter to build more ships. They follow 3 days behind our fleet and will reach your space soon after us. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. The aliens weren't just asking for safe passage. They were warning humanity about an even greater threat. Captain, Matt Collins called from engineering. You need to hear this. I've been analyzing the damage patterns on those alien ships. Go ahead, Chief. Whatever hit them used some kind of energy weapon that cuts through their hull material like paper. But here's the strange part. The damage patterns suggest the attackers were using technology similar to our own nuclear weapons. Jake frowned. That doesn't make sense. You said their technology was far beyond ours. It is, Captain. But sometimes advanced isn't always better. These devourers might be vulnerable to brute force weapons. Dr. Wayne was reading something on his portable display. Captain, I've been researching everything we know about machine intelligences. If these devourers are purely artificial, they might have weaknesses that organic minds would never think to exploit. What kind of weaknesses? Electromagnetic pulses, for one. Most advanced AI systems use quantum processors that are extremely vulnerable to certain types of interference. Jake felt a spark of hope. Human technology was primitive compared to the aliens, but sometimes primitive meant simple and effective. Sam asked the Vorthan fleet if they're willing to share tactical information about these devourers. The response was immediate. Yes, sharing all data now. Warning, devourers adapt quickly. Standard weapons ineffective after first encounter. They learn and evolve. Over the next several hours, the USS Defiant received detailed information about humanity's new enemy. The Devourers were a self-replicating machine intelligence that had already consumed 17 star systems. They converted planets into raw materials and turned organic life into fuel for their expansion. The Vorthan Empire had been fighting them for 3 years and losing badly. Their fleet of 300 ships represented the last survivors of a civilization that had once ruled dozens of worlds. Captain, Lisa said quietly, If the Devourers follow the Vorthan fleet to human space, every human colony is in danger. Jake nodded grimly. The situation had changed completely. Instead of facing one alien threat, humanity now faced two, and one of them wanted to help. Sam, send a message to the Vorthan fleet. Tell them the USS Defiant will escort them through human space to ensure safe passage. Sir? Lisa looked surprised. Are you sure about this? Commander, if these Devourers are as dangerous as the Vorthan claim, then we need allies, not enemies. Besides, it's the right thing to do. Dr. Wayne smiled for the first time in hours. Captain, you might have just saved two species with one decision. Jake hoped the doctor was right, but he had a feeling the hardest choices were still to come. The truth hit Captain Jake Morrison like a punch to the stomach when Lieutenant Sam Bradley finished translating the latest alien message. The Vorthan Empire, rulers of dozens of worlds, masters of technology beyond human understanding, were running for their lives from something even worse than themselves. Captain, Sam said quietly, they're sending us detailed battle records now. You need to see this. The main viewer filled with images that made Jake's blood run cold. Worlds stripped bare of all life, their surfaces covered with geometric metal, structures that pulsed with alien energy, ships the size of cities moving through space like mechanical locusts, consuming everything in their path. Dr. Alex Wayne studied the data with growing horror. These Devourers don't just destroy civilizations, Captain, they harvest them. Every piece of organic matter, every mineral resource, every technological component gets absorbed into their collective. Commander Lisa Torres worked at her station, analyzing the tactical information. According to these records, the Devourers have consumed 17 star systems in the past 3 years. Billions of people, Captain, gone. Jake stared at the images on the screen. In one recording, he watched a Vorthan city dissolve as machines the size of buildings broke it down into component atoms. In another, he saw children running through streets as mechanical spiders chased them down. How do they fight? Jake asked. Sam translated the question and relayed the response. The Vorthon say conventional weapons are useless after the first engagement. The Devourers analyze every attack, then adapt their defenses to make the same weapon ineffective. What about unconventional weapons? They don't have any. The Vorthon military doctrine is based on precision and efficiency. They use the same types of energy weapons and defensive systems across their entire fleet. Chief Matt Collins joined the conversation from engineering. Captain, I've been studying their battle damage reports. These Devourers focus their attacks on the most advanced systems first. Quantum processors, energy matrices, anything that uses sophisticated technology gets targeted immediately. Jake felt a strange spark of hope. What about simple technology? That's the thing, sir. The Vorthan don't use simple technology. Everything they build is elegant and complex. They don't have anything crude or primitive in their entire arsenal. Doctor, Wayne looked up from his analysis. Captain, what if that's exactly what we need? The Devourers have learned to counter advanced alien technology, but they might not be prepared for human weapons. Our weapons are centuries behind theirs, Lisa pointed out. Sometimes that might be an advantage, Matt said. A nuclear bomb doesn't use quantum processing or energy matrices. It just explodes. Jake opened a communication channel to the Vorthan flagship. Fleet Commander Zethkeller, this is Captain Morrison. We need to discuss tactical options. The alien commander's voice came through the speakers, sounding tired and defeated. Captain, we have shared all our knowledge with you. There are no tactical options against the Devourers. They cannot be stopped. What if we tried something they haven't seen before? Impossible. The Devourers have fought dozens of species across 17 systems. They have encountered every form of warfare in this galaxy. Jake smiled grimly. Fleet Commander, they haven't encountered human warfare. There was a long pause before Zethkelar responded. Captain, with respect, your technology is primitive compared to what the Devourers have already defeated. That might be exactly what we need. Dr. Wayne pulled up a tactical display showing human weapon systems. Captain, our nuclear weapons use simple fission and fusion reactions. No quantum computers, no energy matrices, Just basic physics applied with overwhelming force. The Devourers adapt to sophisticated attacks, Matt added. But how do you adapt to a simple explosion that just destroys everything in a 5-kilometer radius? Jake made his decision. Fleet Commander, we want to propose a joint operation against the Devourers. A joint operation? Zethkalar sounded surprised. Your ships provide advanced sensors and defensive systems. Our ships provide weapons the Devourers have never encountered before. Sub-Commander Theiss joined the conversation. Captain Morrison, even if your weapons prove effective, you have only one ship against thousands of Devourer vessels. Not just one ship. I'm calling in reinforcements. Jake turned to Sam. Send a priority message to Admiral Carter. Tell her we need every available ship with nuclear capabilities sent to our position immediately. Sir, that will take at least 18 hours. Then we have 18 hours to prepare. Over the next several hours, human and Vorthan engineers worked together across the communication link. It was frustrating work, complicated by language barriers and completely different approaches to technology. Matt Collins found himself trying to explain nuclear physics to aliens who manipulated space-time as easily as humans used hammers. In return, Vorthan scientists taught him principles of energy manipulation that human science wouldn't discover for centuries. The key is targeting, Dr. Wayne explained during a joint briefing. The Devourers operate as a collective intelligence. They have a central command ship that coordinates all their activities. Destroy the command ship and the rest of the fleet becomes much less effective, Jake realized. This sent over detailed sensor data. The command vessel is always positioned in the center of their formation, protected by thousands of smaller ships. No force has ever gotten close enough to attack it directly. What if we didn't try to fight through their defenses? Lisa suggested. What if we went around them? Jake studied the tactical display. You mean a distraction attack? Exactly. The Vorthan fleet engages the main Devourer force, draws their attention. Meanwhile, a small human force makes a direct assault on the command ship. Zethkalar's voice came through the speakers. Captain Morrison, such a plan would require the Vorthan fleet to sacrifice itself to give you a chance at the command vessel. Fleet Commander, we're not asking you to sacrifice yourselves. We're asking you to trust us. Trust is difficult when facing extinction. I understand. But right now, trust is all we have. Matt Collins reported from engineering. Captain, I've been working with the Vorthan technical staff. They can modify our targeting systems to work with their quantum processors. Our nuclear weapons would be much more accurate. What about their shield technology? They're willing to install defensive generators on our ships. It won't make us invulnerable, but it will give us better protection than standard human armor. Jake nodded. The plan was starting to come together, but it would require perfect coordination between two species who had never fought together before. Fleet Commander, we need to know everything about how the Devourers fight. Every tactic, every pattern of behavior you've observed. Transmitting all tactical data now, Captain. But I must warn you, they learn from every encounter. If our joint attack fails, they will be prepared for human weapons in future battles. Then we better make sure it doesn't fail. Admiral Ruth Carter arrived 16 hours later with 3 human warships, all armed with nuclear weapons and crewed by volunteers who understood they might not be coming home. Jake, Admiral Carter said over the communication system, I hope you know what you're getting us into. Admiral, if we don't try this, humanity faces the same fate as 17 other species. Sometimes you have to take a desperate chance. Dr. Wayne had been studying the approaching Devourer fleet through long-range sensors. Captain, they'll be here in less than 6 hours. We need to finalize our battle plan. Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. They were scared, but they were also determined. They understood what was at stake. All right, people, this is it. 4 human ships and 300 Vorthan vessels against the most dangerous enemy the galaxy has ever seen. Are we really going to try this? Sam asked quietly. Lieutenant, 2 days ago we were mapping empty star systems. Today we're trying to save 2 civilizations. If that's not worth fighting for, I don't know what is. Fleet Commander Zethkalar opened a final communication channel. Captain Morrison, the Vorthan fleet is ready to begin the operation. We will draw the Devourers away from their command ship and give you the best opportunity we can. Thank you, Fleet Commander. Whatever happens today, it's been an honor working with you. The honor has been ours, Captain. Your species has shown us that courage is not about superior technology or overwhelming force. Sometimes it is simply about refusing to give up when everything seems hopeless. Jake sat in his captain's chair and watched the sensor display as the Devourer fleet approached. Thousands of enemy ships moved in perfect formation, like pieces of a vast machine designed for destruction. In a few hours, they would discover whether human stubbornness and alien elegance could work together to stop an enemy that had never been defeated. Admiral Ruth Carter arrived with 3 human warships just as the first Devourer scouts appeared at the edge of the system. Her small fleet looked pitiful next to the massive Vorthan formation, but Jake Morrison had never been happier to see reinforcements in his life. Captain Morrison? Admiral Carter's voice crackled over the communication system. I hope you know what you're doing down there. Honestly, Admiral, I'm making this up as I go along, Jake replied from the bridge of the USS Defiant. But the alternative is watching humanity get wiped out, so we might as well try. The past 30 hours had been a whirlwind of activity. Human and Vorthon engineers had worked around the clock to modify weapon systems and integrate shield technologies. The language barrier had made everything twice as difficult, but Lieutenant Sam Bradley had become surprisingly good at technical translation. Chief Matt Collins reported from the engineering section. Captain, the weapon modifications are complete. We've got 12 nuclear torpedoes fitted with Vorthan guidance systems and quantum targeting computers. They should be able to penetrate the Devourer shields. What about our own defenses? The Vorthan have installed shield generators on all 4 human ships. It's not perfect integration, but it should give us better protection than our standard armor. Dr. Alex Wayne had been analyzing the Devourer scout ships through long-range sensors. Captain, the enemy vessels are unlike anything in our databases. They appear to be constructed from some kind of self-repairing metal that can reshape itself in response to damage. How do we fight something like that? Overwhelming force applied faster than they can adapt. Hit them hard and don't give them time to learn. Fleet Commander Zeth Kalar opened a channel to all ships in the combined fleet. All vessels, this is Fleet Command. The Devourer main force has been detected approaching from Galactic North. Estimated time to contact is 4 hours. Jake studied the tactical display. The enemy fleet was massive, easily twice the size of the Vorthon formation. Thousands of geometric shapes moved through space in perfect synchronization, like pieces of a vast machine. How many ships are we facing? Admiral Carter asked. Over 6,000 individual vessels, Sub-Commander Thiss reported. However, our analysis suggests they function as a single entity rather than independent units. A hive mind, Dr. Wayne realized. That's why standard tactics don't work against them. They don't think like individual commanders making separate decisions. Which means if we can disrupt their central control, the entire fleet becomes vulnerable, Jake added. The plan was simple in concept but nearly impossible to execute. The Vorthon fleet would engage the main Devourer force, drawing their attention and spreading their formation thin. Meanwhile, the human ships would make a direct assault on the Devourer command vessel, a massive structure in the center of their fleet. Captain, Sam Bradley called from his station. I'm receiving a transmission from one of the Devourer ships. They're trying to communicate. It's not exactly communication, sir. More like a data probe. They're scanning our ships and trying to analyze our technology. Jake felt a chill. If the Devourers could learn human military secrets before the battle even began, the Alliance was doomed before it started. Can you block the scan? Working on it, sir. Sam's fingers flew over his controls. The Vorthon shield modifications should provide some protection. Fleet Commander Zeth Kalar's voice came over the comm system. All ships prepare for combat. The Devourers have ceased their approach and are forming battle formation. Through the main viewer, Jake watched the enemy fleet reshape itself. Individual ships flowed together like drops of mercury, forming larger constructs that bristled with weapons. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Admiral Carter, are your ships ready for this? Jake asked. As ready as we'll ever be, Captain. The USS Yorktown and USS Intrepid are standing by with modified nuclear arsenals. The USS Constitution will provide cover for your attack run. Jake nodded. The battle plan required precise timing and a lot of luck. If any part of it failed, both species would face extinction. All ships, this is Captain Morrison. Today we fight, not just for humanity but for every organic species in the galaxy. The Devourers have consumed 17 worlds, but they stop here. We stop them here. The Vorthon fleet moved first, their elegant ships accelerating toward the enemy formation. Energy beams lanced across space as plasma cannons engaged Devourer shields. The aliens fought with tactical precision that was beautiful to watch, but Jake could see they were already taking heavy casualties. Human fleet, begin your attack run, Zethkalar commanded over the comm. Admiral Carter's 3 ships formed up around the USS Defiant as they accelerated toward the center of the Devourer fleet. Enemy fire began to focus on them immediately, forcing the human ships to weave through a deadly maze of energy weapons. Shields holding, Matt Collins reported from engineering. But we're taking a beating down here. The USS Yorktown exploded in a brilliant flash of light, overwhelmed by concentrated Devourer fire. Admiral Carter's voice remained steady despite the loss. Continue the mission. We're almost through their perimeter defenses. Jake watched the tactical display as they pushed deeper into the enemy formation. The Devourer command ship was enormous, easily 10 times the size of the largest human vessel. It sat in the center of the fleet like a mechanical spider surrounded by its web. Target acquired, Sam reported. Quantum targeting systems are locked onto the command ship's central processor. Fire all nuclear torpedoes. The USS Defiant shuddered as 12 modified nuclear weapons launched toward their target. The Vorthon guidance systems worked perfectly, steering the torpedoes through the enemy point defense systems and toward the command ship's hull. The first explosion lit up space like a miniature sun. Then the second and the third. Nuclear fire washed over the Devourer command vessel, overwhelming its shields and tearing through its self-repairing armor faster than it could adapt. Direct hits, Dr. Wayne called out. The command ship is losing power. Across the battlefield, the effect was immediate. Devourer ships that had been moving in perfect coordination suddenly began to drift aimlessly. Some collided with each other as their networking systems failed. But the victory was short-lived. The command ship's hull began to seal itself, and new power readings appeared on the sensors. They're adapting, Jake realized. The damage is being repaired. Not fast enough, Admiral Carter said grimly. All remaining ships concentrate fire on the command vessel. Don't let it recover. The USS Intrepid and USS Constitution fired everything they had at the wounded command ship. The Vorthon fleet, seeing the enemy's confusion, pressed their attack with renewed vigor. But Jake could see it wasn't going to be enough. The Devourers were learning, adapting, rebuilding. In a few more minutes, they would be stronger than ever. Captain, Matt Collins called from engineering. I've got an idea, but you're not going to like it. I'm listening, Chief. We could overload our reactor and ram the command ship. A nuclear explosion from inside their hull might do enough damage to permanently disable their central control. Jake closed his eyes. It was a suicide mission, but it might save both species. Jake, no. Admiral Carter's voice cut through the comm system. There has to be another way. Admiral, get your ships out of here. That's an order. Jake turned to his crew. All hands, abandon ship, get to the escape pods. Sir, Sam Bradley said firmly. With respect, we're staying. This isn't a request, Lieutenant. I know, sir, but we all volunteered for this mission, and we're seeing it through. Lisa Torres nodded. He's right, Captain. We're in this together. Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. They were scared, but they were also determined. They understood what was at stake. All right then. Chief Collins, prepare for ramming speed. The USS Defiant turned toward the Devourer command ship and began to accelerate. Fleet Commander Zethkalar watched in horror as the small human ship turned toward the Devourer command vessel. The USS Defiant was accelerating directly at the massive enemy ship, clearly intending to ram it. Human vessel, Change course immediately, Zethkalar commanded over the communication system. Your sacrifice will accomplish nothing. Captain Jake Morrison's voice came back steady and calm. Fleet Commander, sometimes the primitive solution is the right solution. We're going to hit that command ship with everything we have. Captain, the Devourers will simply repair the damage as they have done before. Not this time. We're going to detonate our reactor inside their hull. They can't adapt if there's nothing left to adapt with. Zethkalar felt something he had never experienced. Before in battle, the humans were willing to die for people they had just met, for a species they barely understood. In all his years commanding the Vorthan fleet, he had never seen such selfless courage. All Vorthan ships, he ordered his fleet. Concentrate all firepower on the enemy vessels surrounding the human ship. Clear them a path to the command vessel. Sub-Commander Thys looked at him in surprise. Sir, that will leave our own ships vulnerable to attack. Then so be it. The humans are sacrificing themselves for us. The least we can do is give them a clear shot at their target. The Vorthan fleet reformed, focusing their plasma cannons and quantum disruptors on the Devourer ships blocking the USS Defiance approach. Energy beams lit up space as the aliens threw everything they had at the enemy formation. On the bridge of the USS Defiant, Jake Morrison watched the tactical display as his ship closed the distance to the command vessel. Devourer fighters swarmed. Around them, their weapons hammering at the Vorthan shields protecting the human ship. Shields at 30%, Matt Collins reported from engineering. Hull breaches on decks 4 and 7. How long until we reach the target? Jake asked. 2 minutes at current speed, Sam Bradley replied. Dr. Alex Wayne looked up from his sensor readings. Captain, I'm detecting massive power buildups throughout the Devourer fleet. I think they're preparing some kind of superweapon. Jake studied the sensor data. If the Devourers were planning something big, then ramming the command ship might not be enough to stop them. Chief Collins, how big an explosion can we make with our reactor? Big enough to vaporize everything within a 5-kilometer radius. Why do you ask? Because I have a better idea. Jake turned to Sam. Lieutenant, patch me through to all ships, human and Vorthan. Channel open, sir. All vessels, this is Captain Morrison. The Devourers are preparing some kind of massive attack. Our ramming run might not be enough to stop them completely. I need every ship with nuclear weapons to target the command vessel at the same time we make contact. Admiral Carter's voice came over the comm. Jake, our remaining ships are too damaged to get close enough for an effective attack. Then we bring the target to you. Chief Collins, instead of ramming them, can we grab onto their hull and drag them toward our fleet? Matt thought for a moment. The magnetic grapples might work, but we'd need to get very close. And once we latch on, we won't be able to detach. Perfect. We'll drag the command ship into range of our allies' weapons, then detonate our reactor to finish the job. Fleet Commander Zethkalar's voice joined the conversation. Captain Morrison, that plan requires incredible precision. If you miss the target by even a few meters, the magnetic grapples will not engage. Then we won't miss, Jake said simply. The USS Defiant swept through the final line of Devourer defenders, her hull scarred and smoking but still intact. The command ship loomed ahead of them, a massive structure that looked more like a city than a starship. Magnetic grapples ready, Matt reported. But Captain, once we attach to that thing, it's going to try to shake us off. The hull stress might tear us apart. How long can we hold on? Maybe 5 minutes if we're lucky. That should be enough. All ships, prepare to concentrate fire on my position in exactly 5 minutes. Jake watched the distance counter tick down on his display. 1,000 meters, 500, 200, 100 grapples away. The magnetic clamp shot out from the USS Defiant and clamped onto the Devourer command ship's hull, with metallic clangs that echoed through the human vessel. Immediately, the massive alien ship began to turn, trying to shake off the small attacker. We're attached, Matt called out as the ship shuddered violently. But I don't know how long the grapples will hold. Long enough, Jake replied. All engines full power. Drag this thing toward our fleet. The USS Defiant's engines screamed with effort as they fought against the much larger command ship. Slowly, incredibly, the Devourer vessel began to change. Course. It's working, Sam reported with amazement. We're actually pulling them off their position. The Devourer command ship fought back, firing weapons at point-blank range into the human vessel. The USS Defiant's hull began to buckle under the assault, but the magnetic grapples held firm. Hull breach on Deck 3, Matt reported. We're losing atmosphere on multiple levels. How much longer? Jake asked. 3 minutes until we reach optimal firing position for the fleet. Admiral Carter's voice crackled over the damaged communication system. Jake, we can see you coming. All remaining ships are locked onto your position. Vorthon fleet is also ready, Zethkalar added. Captain Morrison, it has been an honor fighting alongside you. Jake smiled grimly. The honor was ours, Fleet Commander. The next 2 minutes felt like hours as the USS Defiant dragged the massive command ship toward the combined fleet. Devourer fighters swarmed around both vessels, but the Vorthon ships kept them at bay with precise defensive fire. Position reached, Sam announced. All Allied ships are in range. This is it, Jake said to his crew. It's been a privilege serving with all of you. Commander Lisa Torres stood up from her station. Captain, if we're going to die, we should do it properly. She began to salute, and one by one the rest of the bridge crew joined her. Even in their final moments, they maintained their dignity and their duty. All ships, Jake commanded. Fire. Everything you have. Chief Collins, prepare to detonate the reactor on my mark. Space erupted in fire as human nuclear weapons and Vorthon energy beams converged on the Devourer command ship. The massive vessel's shields failed under the combined assault, and explosions began to tear through its hull. Now, Chief. Do it now. Matt Collins pressed the final control sequence. The USS Defiant's reactor went critical, unleashing the power of a small star directly into the heart of the Devourer command vessel. The explosion was visible from the other side of the system. When the light faded, both the USS Defiant and the Devourer command ship were gone, replaced by an expanding sphere of superheated plasma. Across the battlefield, the effect was immediate and total. Every Devourer vessel stopped moving simultaneously as their central control was severed. Some began to drift aimlessly through space. Others simply shut down completely, their lights going dark. Fleet Commander Zethkalar stared at the tactical display in amazement. The threat that had destroyed 17 worlds and consumed billions of lives had been stopped by 4 primitive human ships and a captain willing to sacrifice everything. Sub-Commander Thys, open a channel to all remaining vessels. Channel open, sir. Zethkalar's voice echoed across the battlefield, reaching every human and Vorthon ship. For the first time in his military career, his voice broke with emotion. Human vessels, he said slowly. We who have ruled 100 worlds and commanded the respect of a dozen species, we who have never bowed to any force in the galaxy, we who thought ourselves the pinnacle of civilization in this region of space. He paused, struggling with words that had never been spoken by a Vorthon commander before. We beg your forgiveness for our arrogance. We beg your understanding for our pride. And we beg you to accept our eternal gratitude for your courage. Admiral, Carter's voice responded quietly. Fleet Commander, you have nothing to beg for. Today we fought as allies, and allies don't keep score. Admiral, your Captain Morrison and his crew saved not just our fleet, but countless worlds that the Devourers would have consumed. How does one repay such a debt? By making sure their sacrifice wasn't in vain, by building something better together. Over. The following days, as the combined fleet searched the wreckage for survivors and salvaged Devourer technology, a new alliance was born. The Vorthon refugees were granted safe passage to uninhabited worlds in human space, where they began to rebuild their civilization. Lieutenant Sam Bradley, who had survived the battle aboard Admiral Carter's flagship, became humanity's first ambassador to the Vorthon Empire. Dr. Alex Wayne led joint research teams studying Devourer technology to ensure the threat could never return. Chief Matt Collins, who had also survived after being evacuated to an escape pod before the final explosion, worked with Vorthon engineers to develop new defensive technologies that combined the best of both species' capabilities. The memorial to Captain Jake Morrison and the crew of the USS Defiant was built on the first joint human-Vorthan colony world. The inscription, written in both languages, read simply, "They chose courage over fear, sacrifice over safety, and hope over despair." But perhaps the most important monument to their sacrifice was the friendship between two species who had learned that strength comes not from standing alone,